Hello and welcome back to Lisa Loves. Now I'm going to make a bit of a change in 2021. People, after a little bit of feedback, had been saying they would like to see some more reviews. So what I'm going to do instead of doing loads of reviews is to do one video per week of what I've watched instead of one per month, which should hopefully either make the videos a bit shorter or give you a little bit more information about the movies. So with that in mind, I'm going to start now with what I watched in the first week of January. So on the 1st there you can see I watched a movie called Spree. Now this has got Joe Keery from Stranger Things in. I quite enjoyed this one. This is a movie about a young lad that wants to be big on YouTube. His mate is a lot more successful than he is for reasons just left unanswered because his mate's just very annoying and his YouTube channel is terrible, but he wants to do the next big thing to make him the next big thing on YouTube, and this movie follows, he's a spree driver, which I don't know if it's a real thing. It's basically an Uber driver and he rigs his car up with a load of cameras and he sets out to just do some really horrible things and stream the whole thing live on his YouTube channel. It's quite tongue-in-cheek. The effects are quite comic book in style, or it sounds ridiculous to say it's funny, but it is funny in places. His role, he plays it really well. It's not going to appeal to everyone because it isn't particularly serious. It's got a very sort of fast moving feel to it as well, so if you liked something like Guns Akimbo with Daniel Radcliffe, you might like this. It's got a very sort of similar fast moving comic book feel to it, but it's not comic book. That maybe made no sense whatsoever. So that's called Spree and I gave that one a 3 out of 5. On the 2nd I watched I've clicked the wrong button. On the 2nd I watched a movie that had been getting a lot of reviews, a lot of positive reviews on YouTube, called Unhinged with Russell Crowe. Now this basically is a movie about road rage in the extreme. Russell Crowe plays a unhinged, hence the name, character who has a run-in with a woman at a traffic light, and basically he hunts her down the entire way through this film because he's not best pleased. I think she honked at him, can't remember exactly, but it's just an entire movie about how psychopathic Russell Crowe is. It was decent, his acting was superb, he was a thoroughly unlikable character. I wouldn't say it's as good as people are saying. Like, I have seen this on people's top 10 movies of 2020. I would not go that far, but again, it's all personal preference. I liked it. It was worth a watch, but I wouldn't say it was fantastic. I gave that a 2.5 out of 5. Next is Greenland. This is one with, I have to scroll down for his name, Gerard Butler. This was a quite interesting one. Now, this is one about Gerard Butler, his wife and son. His son is diabetic, I believe. It's a movie about the impending end of the world. There's going to be a disaster. Gerard Butler's character is one of the people, due to his occupation, that is chosen, should the earth end, to restart again. There are particular people chosen. Now this movie follows the lead up to this disaster, follows the fallout with certain people that were chosen and certain ones that weren't. Obviously there's going to be all of his neighbours, all of his friends, and they're going to get wind that he's been allowed into the shelters, the bunkers, and they aren't. So it follows that side of things. There is also an issue with his family as to why there is difficulty with them getting the shelter that they were promised. I enjoyed this. I thought it was quite a decent movie. The performances were all very good. It wasn't exceptional. It's not going to be a movie I would rant and rave about to people and say, oh, you must see this, it's amazing. It was good, it was decent, it was solid. I would recommend to check it out. I gave that a 3.5 out of 5, so that's slightly better than average for me. On the 5th I watched a movie called It Stains the Sand Red. Now I'm a bit torn about how to score this. This is going to be one that you're probably going to hate or you're going to love. I just struggled with rating it. This is a zombie movie, but a bit of a difference. We have one zombie in this that basically spends the entire movie following a girl across the desert. She's trying to get out of the desert, he's following her. And it's almost like a friendship movie. That sounds ridiculous. It is. She becomes accustomed to her and he's almost, I would say, like a pet to her. I find this quite endearing. As I watched it at the beginning, I was thinking, this is ridiculous, what's going on here? But it had just the right mix of effects, makeup, and storyline. I thought it was worth a watch. I thought it was a bit different to the usual. So it's kind of a survival movie. It's a bit of a... friendship's the wrong word, but she does become accustomed to this zombie as the movie goes on. It was different. It's worth watching. It's just for the fact it was different. Again, not amazing. I gave it a 3 out of 5, which is what I generally give something if I liked it okay. But I wouldn't probably watch it again, but I wouldn't say it's bad. I would say check it out, it's different. That is all I think I watched on the first week. I'll just give you what I watched on the 8th as a roundup, which was, I want to tell you something positive in this week's viewing. It was Pieces of a Woman. Again, this is one that's getting rave reviews from everywhere that I've watched, so obviously I watched it. It was on my watch list, but it did jump up a bit when I watched a few reviews. This stars, why is her name? This stars Vanessa Kirkby and Shia LaBeouf, unfortunately. I'm not a fan of Shia LaBeouf. Now, he is really good in this. I would never dispute the guy's acting skills. He can act. The guy's just a bit of a prat, really. But the role he plays in this is hideous. He's such a hideous person in this. This movie, I'm sure you know what it's about if you're a movie fan at all, is about a young couple, and there's a scene in it that's very long. It's all one cut, and it follows a home birth. She's giving birth, and tragedy happens. We know that. I'm not giving any spoilers. The movie's not about that in itself. It's about her trying to come to terms with the loss of her child. It's about her relationships with her family and with friends, with people not altogether understanding how she feels. Her mental unravelling, the relationship and the difficulties that occur in that, and obviously the man and woman's different ways of dealing with things. All I'll say, if I was in her position, he would have found himself with a very bloody nose out of the house rather swiftly. But I suppose it's trying to put across what can happen to some men in this instance. I personally don't know any that would react like this, but you have to give Shia LaBeouf the acting chops. He played a role which absolutely made me loathe the character, so he's doing something right. Vanessa Kirkby in this also is absolutely fantastic. It's not going to be a movie for everyone. It just covers a really tragic thing that can happen in some people's lives, and I think any woman, any parent, but I think there's quite a raw thing, any woman that's seen this, that's gone through childbirth or that's had worries or stresses or has worried that perhaps their child's not going to pull through or whatever, it really does hit in a really raw place. But I think if you've been through what this character went through and you've lost a child, I think this would make a very, very difficult watch. So it's not one I would recommend to everyone because it doesn't pull any punches. The birth scenes do show a little bit of graphic stuff in there. Nothing terrible, just quite quick and short, but it's there. So it will be that word triggering for a lot of people. But for the acting performances alone, I would really recommend it. But if you're expecting anything more than a couple that undergo a tragedy and them trying to cope with what's happened, then you're not going to get it here because that's all that happens. But this is a movie you need to watch for the acting performances. They were superb. I gave that a 3.5 out of 5. It maybe sounds low given what I've just said, but it's not my kind of movie. I know that probably sounds really hypocritical. I'm going to switch this off. Generally, I want to watch a movie and be entertained, sort of like made laugh, think something's touching. I find this uncomfortable, I find this difficult, and it's not a movie I would watch again. I would never take away from the fact I thought it was superbly done, but it just was not my cup of tea. That's the only way I can put it. So yeah, that was Pieces of a Woman. I hope that of those that I've just read out, I would say that they're all, to be quite honest with you, all worth a watch. Spree was good fun. Unhinged was just a decent story if you need something to watch. Greenland, very much like Unhinged, but to me slightly better if you want to watch, nothing on TV, whatever. Well worth a watch. Stains of Sand Red, something different, a different take on the zombie genre, and Pieces of a Woman. Sit down and buckle in and be prepared for a pretty emotional movie. So that's the first week of January 2021. Is there anything you've watched that you would recommend for me to check out? Anything new out there? Let me know in the comments, let me know if you've seen any of these movies and what you thought, and I will see you next week for what I've watched in week 2 of 2021.